So let me record this meeting and then start sharing my screen. Okay, so here is the list of contents for today's discussion. We'll try to understand the JSP object scopes and the JSP implicit objects. How do we work with all those implicit objects and all. And also we'll try to understand about the sessions, cookies, all that. And before we jump into the JSP's implicit objects, we'll also try to understand the object scopes. So any object you are going to work with in a JSP page, it is defined with four different scope values. So by default, every object is to be considered as a local object on that JSP page. So page is the default scope, we can say, and also it is the least visible scope. And a little bigger scope you wanted to provide, then you are going to add that particular variable as an attribute in your request, so that the scope value will be little more broadened. Then session scope, then application scope. So this is how, starting from the least visibility towards the most visibility, these are the four different scope values that are available for any object that we are going to define in a JSP page. So the default scope, you can call it as the page scope. And if we say request scope, so if that request is shared among the two different pages, then that particular object will be accessible. And session scope means till your session is not expired, till you are going to close that session, till you are going to terminate that session, that particular object will be accessible throughout all your pages wherever you want it to access. Application scope means it should be considered as the global scope till you shut down your application or till the server is shut down. The things are available, right? The objects are available. So this is how the four different scope values that we can define for any of our own user defined objects or variables in a JSP page. Then coming to the usage of implicit objects. So every JSP page, I mean, like the way when we were working with those scripting elements in our previous class. So what are those four scripting elements? Declarations, expressions, scriptlets, and the comments. So while working with these four things, we tried to print something on our web page that was done by using out object, out.println we said. And we wanted to know the current session ID, we said session.getID. We wanted to know the parameter value, whatever we passed, and we wanted to print that value on our page. So we read that value by using request.getParameter method. So this out, request, session, all these things are to be known as the implicit objects, which are acting as the wrapper objects for your servlet API of classes. So like that, there are altogether 9 implicit objects are available in JSP. Like request, it is representing your HTTP servlet request object. And whenever you are trying to invoke that particular thing, it is going to be accessing the values, accessing the parameters, accessing the attributes, all that through this request object. Then response, it represents HTTP servlet response object. Page context. So like this, altogether 9 implicit objects are there. Application, equivalent to your servlet context object of your servlet API. Out object, it is to be known as a JSP writer object, which is equivalent to your print writer object. Config object, it reads all the values from your servlet config object. Then page, which is to represent the this operator, I mean the current page itself. Majority of the time will not be working with this. Session object to represent the HTTP session API. Exception object to handle all your exception handles or error handling in your JSP programming. There will be using this exception object. So this way, these are all known as the implicit objects supported by your JSP things. And all these objects are visible only inside the system generated underscore JSP service method. If you remember, as part of the life cycle of a JSP programming, every JSP need to get translated as a servlet component and then compiled, and then it will be registering itself as a server side component on that server. So whenever it is getting translated, I mean your JSP page is getting translated as a servlet component, in that case, whatever the scriptlet lines of code you wrote, whatever the lines of dynamic lines of code you prepared as part of your JSP, all those things will get translated into this underscore JSP service method, which is one of the lifecycle methods of your JSP. So that way, all your implicit objects are accessible or visible only through this method. They will not be visible inside the user defined methods, inside the programmer defined methods, whatever you are going to declare on your own. Your own methods will not be able to access these implicit objects. Your own methods will be able to access whatever the things you are going to import them by using the import attribute inside the page directive. We have seen how do we import a java.util.date class by writing import equal to java.util.date. So that way we will be able to play with all those things, right? So this is one example which we wrote at last time, scriptlet example, to demonstrate the usage of scriptlet, wherein the for loop is begins at I1 and goes for 4 times, and this value of I is concatenated with your H using this expression. That way it is going to prepare that many number of heading tags, H1 heading, H2 heading, H3 and H4, and accordingly this is how the output will be shown to you, right? So like that we played. Now let's try to demonstrate the out object and request object. Every request object is by default defined with some cookies. So we just wanted to know how many cookies are there in our system. By default cookies. So what are those names and values of every cookie? So to get that, use your request object, say that request.getCookies, that will return you the cookie array, and then loop through that cookie array starting from its index 0 and keep invoking the get name and get value method on every cookie array object, which returns you name and value. Then print that name and value in the form of a paragraph, right? So all this code is written inside a scriptlet, and on top of the scriptlet a comment is written, right? So let's try to write these things. So in our last class, who shared the screen? Is it Ahmad, right? So shall I make you the presenter, Ahmad, again? Right. Yeah, I'm making you the presenter again. Yeah, you are the presenter. So please share your screen. Okay, go to my web project. Go to web content. Right. So here we will write a new program to demonstrate the usage of this request object. Say that request demo.jsp. Okay. You can modify the title as request demo. Right. And then you can copy all these lines of code inside the body tag at line 10. Right. So line 10 is a commented line. So it is a JSP comment. And then line 11 to 19 it is all a scriptlet. And inside that scriptlet you wrote some Java lines of code. Save this and then try to run this. Let's see how this page is demonstrating the request and out objects that you can see. Refresh. Just click the refresh page. Right. So it read one single cookie object which is by default available in every web application, that is JSession ID, right? So this is your JSession ID, and the value of that JSession ID is this. So if you load this page in your Chrome browser, all that, there will also be JSession ID, but a different value. Means the session ID is different from browser to browser, right? So all the cookies are with respect to the browsers. Refresh, because the session is not yet started, so it gives you error. So now when you refresh it, it allocates some session ID for that. So the session ID value of Chrome browser is different from the one that is there in the built-in browser of your Eclipse. Got it? Now we'll write one more thing. Like if you remember, we wrote a servlet. Can you show me the servlets, whatever you wrote in your Java resources? They will be src folder inside the package. Okay, I think that servlet is not there with you. Servlet headers. So all my request headers information I would like to print. Right? So those whoever shared that day, that would be there on your boxes, on those boxes. Okay, not a problem. So let us prepare a JSP page. So this JSP page is going to show me the complete header information of my request object. Say that new JSP file, name it as request headers or request header info.jsp. Headers info.jsp. Finish. And you can change the title as request headers. And copy all these lines. Control Shift F, please. So here if you see a table object we are trying to construct from line 11 to 25, and inside that table we are trying to define the scriptlets. So the first scriptlet is to retrieve all my header names, which is going to return me the enumeration object, and I am looping through that enumeration object, and each enumeration object's element is returned to me as one header name variable, header name string. So take a table row and generate that many number of table rows to print that header name as well as the value of that header. Right? Save this and try to run this one. Right? So the first column is all about header name it is. Then the second column is about the header value. So you can put that line of code to differentiate what each column is all about. So that it right now it is all these are all the table rows that got generated as a result of your while loop. So before you enter into the while loop, just take this tr, copy this tr and paste it after line 11. It is a static tag, right? So all my dynamic lines of code that should be there inside the scriptlet. But I wanted to say that header name, header value, they are the static things. So they need to be kept at line 12. Copy this tr. Right, Control Shift F. There you go. You can see that header name, header value as the table heading. And then you are going to generate these many number of table rows through your scriptlets. Now go to your page, refresh, there you go. And moreover, if you wanted to display any more heading, so this also you can add, where you can add this line. You can add this line before you start your table. So immediately after your body tag you can copy this one line. Yeah, after line 9 you can paste this. So we are trying to put the heading saying that request header info. Save this, refresh this. There you go. Right, so request header info, header name, header value. So all those header names and all those header values are printed there. So this kind of tabular format also we did earlier while working with the servlet programming. I think it is not there with the MS machine, but it was done. I think it is part of your second class. Okay, so no problem. Then do you remember we created a HTML page, and through the HTML page we tried to submit the data and all the data was read by the servlet. So similar to that we want to submit the data from HTML to JSP page, and my JSP should be able to read all the data. Right, so let's create that. So create a HTML page first. So in that HTML page you can mention get name.html, and you can change the title of that as get name. I mean it is going to read the name. Then you can define this form tag there. So the entire form tag we are trying to define. Form method equal to post, action equal to show name.jsp. I mean when you are going to enter something in the text box and then clicking on that submit button, it will be submitted onto the page called show name.jsp. So copy that action value from line 8. So action equal to, you said show name.jsp, right? So it is submitting onto that JSP file. So you need to create a JSP file with that name. So right click on your web content, then say paste that, finish that. So what is the name of your text box there? Can you go back to the HTML page? On line number 11, you can see that type equal to text, name equal to username. So you are going to enter the value in that username text box, and that value we would like to read it in the show name.jsp page and print that. So copy this p tag and paste it there inside your show name.jsp. Right, so we are saying that request.get parameter of that username, I mean the name of the text box. So first let us run the HTML page. Right click and then say run as run on server. There you go. So here it is asking you to enter your name followed by the text box and then the submit button. So keep the cursor inside the text box and type something. So it is a text box. Name of that text box was given as username. Right, enter some value there and then click the submit button. And you can observe that show name.jsp and it says welcome dear Sachin. Right. So if you go back to your getName.html, if you say that method equal to get on line 8, right now method equal to post it is. So it is a secured and safest way of submitting the data. If I say method equal to get, so as per servlet programming, it is going to execute the doGet method. And here we just wanted to verify whether JSP is able to do that or not. Right? Go back to the browser and click the back button there and refresh the page. And again enter your name, then click submit button. Right? So this time you can observe value is read by using that request.get parameter, but the URL is concatenated question mark username equal to ampersand b1 equal to submit. So what is that b1 equal to submit? It is another input element that you kept in your HTML page. So go there to your getName.html, line number 14. Input type equal to submit button, value equal to submit, name equal to b1 you said, right? So that's why it says b1 equal to submit. So b1 is the name of that component, that input element, and the value of that b1 is submit. So that is what all those things get concatenated there if you are going to use the get method. So that's the reason get is not to be considered as the safe way of submitting the data values. Hence you can remove that get and you can keep it as post. Right? Save that. And one more thing, JSP sessions. Like in any web application we wanted to work with, so majority of the time the user is navigating from one page to the other page, and it is mandatory that the user data need to be shared across the different pages of the application as he keep on accessing, keep on moving from page to page throughout the application. So for that purpose, HTTP session API is there in servlet programming. The similar thing is available in the form of an implicit object in JSP called session. So using that session object, you'll be able to save the data specific to that user. So that way you'll be able to go to anywhere and you'll be able to read the values of that session object. You'll be able to navigate to any page in that application. If you say session.get attribute, it is going to give you that attribute. Provided that that attribute value must be saved on your page. So first of all, let's create a page, a sample form. To create a new page, name it as sample form.jsp. Sample form.jsp. And let me give you the form tag once again, same as the one which you created under getName.html just before. Yeah, copy my form tag code at line 10. Right, Control Shift F. So this time once again I am trying to submit my form using the method post, and I am taking text box and also the submit button. And action this time is I would like to save all my data in my session object, so I wanted to create a new page there. So copy that action page. Action value is there on line 10. Copy that. Save to session.jsp. Action equal to. So with that name, we need to create one more JSP page. Session data. Title is session data or save session. You can paste it once again. Select that insert title and paste it. Then copy the scriptlet inside the body tag. So what you are trying to do inside the scriptlet? You are reading the parameter that is coming in here from the sample form.jsp by using request.get parameter. And that value you would like to save it as an attribute of session. Name of your attribute is attribute username, and it is going to carry the value that is there in that variable username. Right? Then after this scriptlet, just paste this p tag. So inside this p tag I am trying to create a hyperlink. After line 13 you can paste. So the hyperlink here shown is to take me on to the next page so that I can read the value of this session. So it is pointing to show session data.jsp. Line 15 you can copy that file name. href equal to you said, right? So copy that file name. So with that name there should be one more JSP file existing. So let's create that file. Okay, and here let's read that value and print it. So earlier we read the value from request.get parameter. This time we are going to read it from the session object inside a scriptlet by saying session.get attribute. So on line 11 you can observe that session.get attribute and name of that attribute, whatever the name you mentioned in your previous page. So with that name you are reading that attribute value, and then you are trying to print that as an expression there, right? So there are three pages, step by step 3-page flows are defined. So go and run your very first page sample form. Run this. There you go. This is your sample form.jsp wherein you need to enter your name. And clicking on this submit, it is going to save the data in sessions. Right? And we just wanted to verify whether it is saved or not by clicking that hyperlink. It takes you to the next page to view that session value. And you are able to read the data of your session attribute there. Right? So this way, once you save any value inside your session object, you will be able to access in any of the pages. Right? So that's how we'll be able to play with this session objects in JSP program. Any questions so far? The similar job would be done even by taking cookies. Cookies are known as the short pieces of data that are sent by your web servers to the respective web browsers, and hence those cookies are getting saved on your client machines in the form of tiny text files. And the cookies are also helpful for your web servers to identify the different web users, and accordingly your server is able to track the respective user all that. I mean, it is also going to do the same job as your session is trying to do here. So every cookie value need to uniquely identify the respective client all that. So that way every cookie is defined with certain name, certain value, all that. Right, so let us play with that one also. If you go to your sample form.jsp, I want you to save it as, click file, save as, name it as cookie form.jsp. So I want to create a cookie. So I just wanted to name it as a cookie form and change the title, and then action equal to, so everything remains same, action equal to save to session is there, right? So you can say save to cookie or set cookie dot JSP, set cookie dot JSP. Then go to the next page, save to session dot JSP, save this, go to the next page and rename that as set cookie dot JSP. File, save as, no, control Z, file, rename, file, save as set cookie dot JSP. Okay, you read that username through the parameter. So line number 11 is fine. Line number 12 you can remove, and instead of that line 11, line number 12, you can copy all these three lines. So there we would like to create a cookie object by saying cookie equal to new cookie, all that. So we said new cookie followed by cookie name, and it is going to carry some value there. And for that cookie we are trying to set the maximum age of 1 year. So if you are not interested in setting up 1 year, you can just change that 365 as 1, so that it will be there actively for 24 hours, 1 day, right? So 365 multiplied by 24 hours multiplied by 60 minutes multiplied by 60 seconds, because your set max age method of the cookie object takes the age value in terms of seconds, so that's why we are trying to convert that as seconds. And then that cookie object you are adding it to the response, so it will be there in the response. And then we need to take it on to the next page to view the data. So href value you can change it, say that show cookie data, show cookie data, and you can modify next page to view the cookie value, next page to view the cookie value. Okay, save this. And now go to your next page, show session data, and then say save as whatever the name you mentioned there, show cookie data you said, right? So save it as show cookie data dot JSP, and you can remove line 10, 11, 12. I mean that scriptlet you can remove, and you can take this scriptlet. Control Shift F. Yeah. So we know that our cookie name is username, and we know that request.getCookies method returns as the cookie array. So we need to look through that cookie array. I mean that cookie array is nothing but cookies starting from 0th index till to the last one. And wherever the cookies of i.getName is matching with your cookie name, then you are reading that cookie object into my cookie object. My cookie equal to cookies of I. And then the value of that cookie object you need to print there. So what is your cookie value? So you can just go there to line number 24 and remove that username. So your cookie object is what? My cookie. Type my cookie, small m, right? So your variable name it is, the one which you declared at line number 13, initialized with null. But inside the for loop it has got the cookie object. C capital, my friend. My cookie dot get value. Get value. It is a method which you need to invoke. Value, V capital. It is the naming standard we need not to forget. It is a method. Open bracket, close bracket. The names of the methods begin with the lowercase letter, and if the method is sounding like multiple words, second word onwards every word need to begin with a capital letter. It is the standard naming convention of Java programming. Save this. Alright. So now go to your cookie form.jsp and run that page. Enter your name there and then say submit. Then click that link to take you to the next page to show that cookie data. Right? So this way, whatever the job your session was doing, the same job would also be done by using your cookies. Right? So do you remember there was only one cookie earlier when we ran the request demo.jsp. Now run that request demo.jsp or go to your Chrome browser and try to run that. Right? It would be still only JSession ID. Then come back to your built-in browser of this, and if request demo is running, run that. If not running, let us run it again. Request demo.jsp. Yeah, refresh. There you go. So this username is a cookie that got created in this browser but not in the Chrome browser. Right? So that's why here JSession ID and username, both the cookie values are displayed, but your Chrome browser is not showing that username cookie there. Right? So this cookie concept is purely local to the browsers. Clear? So this is how we'll be able to work with these cookie things also. But it is not encourageable to go with the cookie concept. So always it is encourageable to go and use that session object, which is one of the built-in objects of your JSP, to represent your HTTP session object, so using which it maintains the state of every unique client. Right? And remember that in your JSPs, all the session objects are enabled by default. And whenever you are trying to log out, you need to disable that. I mean, in the logout page, if you are trying to create, you need to say session equal to false. That's all. So that's how you'll be able to tell the container, you'll be able to tell your browser to disable the session in that particular JSP file. Means if you are trying to build your logout.jsp file, So in that case, you are going to mark it as session equal to false. That way, your session will get disabled there, right? So here is a set of URLs which will be helpful to you to walk through many more examples, especially the last link I want you to open, javapapers.com. It is explaining very well about each and every implicit object, and also hopefully I think it is providing you some examples. If not, there is another link, journaldev.com, the third link. I mean from the bottom it is the, yeah. So here this is explaining you all these implicit objects with the corresponding examples. So scroll down and you'll find some examples there, right? So all those are the implicit objects, 10 examples. 10th one is the JSP implicit objects examples. So tomorrow we'll work with exception object, all the other things. So here this is how he wants you to play with them. So index page is trying to create you there, and he is explaining you how that out object usage would be, and how the request object would be, response object, request object. So all the examples he is trying to explain you very well there. So please go through them and try to run those examples as well. Bring them into your local Eclipse and play with them. And you'll come to know if there are any issues you are going to face. Right, so I'm going to upload this PDF for you, and I think I already uploaded your previous session. So those who missed your previous class, they can go through that. Please download them and start practicing the things. So practice as much as you can. So by practice only you'll be able to learn the things, you'll be able to ask the new things. Right, so if you are asking some questions, means that indicates that yes, you guys are practicing very well. Right? So please do practice and let me know if you are facing any issues, if you need any of my help in your examples, or if you are already practicing, if you stuck anywhere, wanted to share your screen. Yes, Rishita is asking you a question. I want to display the output data from a servlet by passing it to JSP file. Yes, you can do now. Like how your HTML is passing the data to JSP. Same thing. You can use your request dispatcher and you can forward it. That way you can do. Or you can, from your do get, you can do, you can set them in your request objects as request.set attribute, all that, or session.set attribute you can say, and you'll be able to read them. Yes, you can do that. Try to write one example and let's see if it works. If it doesn't work, show me, share me the screen. I'll try to help you out. Right? Does it answer your question? Okay, any more questions? Yeah, sure. You can send me. I'll respond you by email also. No problem. Or if you want to share your screen, you can share. Okay then. Okay, no problem. Please send your screens. I'll try to respond. Okay. Any more questions from any other guys? So how about other two folks? Thirumal is not joining nowadays. Is Thirumal friend of anyone? Thirumal and one more girl, Josna Reddy. So by chance, if you guys are classmates, please inform them to come to the classes regularly. Josna used to come regularly. Tirumal used to come regularly. What happened? Okay, I'll write an email to them. Okay, that's all. Any more questions? If no questions, let's wrap it up here. We'll catch up tomorrow then. Okay, thank you guys. See you tomorrow then. Thank you, Shikanda. Thank you very much.